I sat with the kid everyone was told to avoid. 2 weeks later, the vice principal locked the door behind me. No one warns you that doing the right thing can quietly put a target on your back. They just let it happen. The first sign something was wrong came at 12:11 p.m. on a Wednesday, when the entire cafeteria at Westbridge High shifted, chairs scraping, trays moving, like a coordinated evacuation. All because one kid sat down. His name, I later learned, was Eli Park. I didn't notice him at first. I was too busy complaining to my friend Mateo about our chemistry test when the noise hit, a strange, hollow sound like a room emptying all at once. I looked up and realized something didn't make sense. The cafeteria was full. But one table wasn't. Eli sat there alone, shoulders hunched, hoodie sleeves pulled past his wrists, staring at his phone like it was a shield. Every table around him had an empty buffer, 3 to 4 feet of space like an invisible quarantine zone. No laughter near him. No backpacks on nearby chairs. No one even looking at him. What's with that? I asked. Mateo followed my gaze and immediately stiffened. Don't, he said. Don't what? Don't look at him. And definitely don't sit there. I laughed. Why? Is he radioactive? Mateo didn't laugh back. That's Eli Park. He transferred last week. You don't mess with him. I scanned Eli again. He looked normal, skinny, tired. The kind of kid teachers forgot to call on. What did he do? I asked. Mateo lowered his voice. Nobody knows exactly. But something happened at his old school. Like, bad. Administration level bad. That was the first lie I heard about Eli Park. I didn't know that yet. I just knew that everyone else had decided, without proof, without questions, that he wasn't worth the risk. And for reasons I still don't fully understand, that bothered me. I grabbed my tray and stood up. Mateo caught my wrist. Jordan. Seriously. Sit back down. I hesitated, long enough to feel the weight of the room watching. Then I walked. Every step felt louder than it should have. By the time I reached Eli's table, the cafeteria had gone quiet in that way crowds do when they expect a mistake. Hey, I said. Mind if I sit? Eli blinked like I'd startled him awake. You're talking to me? Last I checked. He glanced around, confused. You don't have to. I know. I sat anyway. That was the moment everything started unraveling. At first, Eli barely spoke. He answered questions with one-word replies, flinched whenever someone walked past too close. Halfway through lunch, I noticed his hands shaking as he lifted his drink. You okay? I asked. He nodded too fast. Yeah. Just, people don't usually do this. Sit. Be normal. That should have been my warning. By the end of the week, I stopped getting texts back. By week 2, my locker had been moved, without notice, to the far end of the hallway near the old theater wing no one used anymore. By week 3, someone slipped a note through the vents. Stay away from him or you'll end up like him. And by the time the vice principal locked the office door behind me, I finally understood why everyone was so afraid. Because Eli Park wasn't dangerous. He was evidence. And someone at Westbridge High was desperate to keep him quiet. By Monday morning, everyone at Westbridge High knew my name. Not because I was popular. Not because I'd done anything impressive. But because I'd broken an unspoken rule. I sat with Eli Park. And now, apparently, I was contaminated. I felt at the moment I walked through the front doors. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Eyes flicked toward me, then away. Someone muttered, that's him, like I was carrying something infectious. Mateo didn't wait for me at our usual spot. Neither did anyone else. My phone stayed silent all day, except for one message that came through during second period. Unknown number. You're making a mistake. Ask your parents about Eli Park. See what happens. I stared at the screen, my stomach tight. Who was watching me closely enough to get my number? Eli was already sitting at our table when lunch rolled around, same posture, same guarded expression. But today, something was different. His foot bounced non-stop under the table. His eyes kept darting toward the faculty section. You okay? I asked quietly. He shook his head. They talked to me. Who? Administration. That made my spine stiffen. About what? He hesitated. Then, about you. That was my second warning. Apparently, Eli had been called into the vice principal's office during third period. Vice Principal Marianne Holt, a woman with perfect posture, ice-cold eyes, and a reputation for handling problems quietly. She asked why you were sitting with me, Eli said. Not like she was curious. Like she was worried. Worried about what? That I'd drag you into something. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. She told me it would be better if I kept my distance from other students. For my own adjustment. That's not how that works, I said. Eli gave a humorless smile. Apparently, it is here. That afternoon, my mom noticed. You're quiet, she said while chopping onions. Something going on at school? I almost told her, but the message from the unknown number echoed in my head. Ask your parents about Eli Park. So instead, I asked casually, "Hey, have you ever heard of Westbridge before we moved here?" She shrugged. "Just that it had good test scores." "Why? And, do you remember anything weird happening here? Like, scandals?" Her knife paused for just a second too long. Then she shook her head. "Why would there be?" That was my third warning. Things escalated fast. By Wednesday, Eli stopped showing up to 2 of his classes. By Thursday, someone carved snitch into the back of his desk. And by Friday, I was called into Vice Principal Holt's office myself. The door closed behind me. Then it locked. That's when I knew this wasn't just about bullying. Holt didn't sit behind her desk. She stood by the window instead, arms crossed, watching the football field like she was waiting for something to explode. "You've been spending a lot of time with Eli Park," she said. "Yes, ma'am." "Do you know why he transferred here?" "No." She turned slowly. "Then you should consider whether curiosity is worth the trouble." My heart pounded. With respect, that sounds like a threat. Her lips tightened. "It's advice." "For what?" "For staying out of things that don't concern you." I swallowed. Someone's been threatening him. And now me. She didn't deny it. Instead, she said something that made my blood go cold. "Eli Park has a history of exaggeration." I stared at her. Exaggeration of what? "Victimhood," she said flatly. That was the 4th warning. That night, Eli finally told me the truth. Not the version floating around the school. Not the sanitized administrative version. The real one. At his old school, North Ridge Academy, Eli had been targeted by a group of seniors. Sons of donors. Kids whose parents sat on boards and committees. They harassed him for months. Online. In person. Anonymous threats. Then one night, they cornered him in a locker room. Eli reported it. He didn't back down. And when the investigation started, the school tried to bury it. "They wanted me to sign a mutual conflict resolution agreement," he said. "Basically admitting fault so it would go away." "But you didn't." "No. I had screenshots. Recordings. Witnesses. The boys were expelled. The school paid a settlement. And then, quietly, Eli was encouraged to leave. They told my mom it would be healthier for me somewhere else." I clenched my fists. "So why is Holt acting like you're the problem?" Eli's voice dropped. "Because one of the boys' parents works here now." Everything clicked. Vice Principal Marianne Holt hadn't been protecting the school. She'd been protecting herself. The twist came Sunday night. I got an email. Not from a student. From a district address. Subject: Student Conduct Review. Immediate attention required. Inside was a scanned document. A behavioral report. Filed under my name. Accusing me of harassment, disruption, and collusion with a known instigator. Signed by Vice Principal Holt. They were setting me up. And if I didn't act fast, I wasn't just going to lose friends. I was going to lose my future. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vice Principal Holt's signature at the bottom of that report. Clean, confident, like she'd done this before. Because she had. The report accused me of harassment for pressuring another student into unwanted social interaction. Of disruption for undermining administrative authority. And worst of all, collusion. With Eli. They were building a paper trail. One clean enough to ruin me quietly. And I finally understood the real rule at Westbridge High. You could be cruel. You could be violent. You just couldn't expose the people who benefited from it. I showed the report to Eli the next morning before first period. His face drained of color. "She's done this before," he whispered. "What?" "At North Ridge. Not with me, but with another kid. A sophomore who backed out of testifying. They labeled him unstable. Transferred him out before anyone noticed." My stomach dropped. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought if I stayed invisible, she'd leave me alone." He laughed bitterly. "Guess that didn't work." Third period came and went. Fourth period too. Then, just after lunch, everything shattered. I was in history when the intercom crackled. "Eli Park, please report to the main office immediately." The room went quiet. Eli stood slowly, eyes locked on mine. "If I don't come back," he said softly, "it means they won." Then he walked out. He didn't come back. By the end of the day, rumors were everywhere. Eli assaulted a staff member. Eli threatened a student. Eli had a mental break. None of it true. But the scariest part? Teachers were repeating it. I ran to the main office after the final bell. The secretary wouldn't look at me. "Where's Eli?" I demanded. She pursed her lips. "You shouldn't be involved." That's when I noticed the detail that saved everything. Above her desk, half hidden by a banner, was a security camera. Old. Yellowed. The kind schools forgot about. "Is that camera working?" I asked. She hesitated. "Too long." That night, Eli's mom called. Her voice was shaking. "They suspended him. Emergency removal. Said he's a danger to himself and others." What happened in the office? They won't tell me. Just that there was an incident. Jordan, he was crying when I picked him up. He keeps saying, she told me not to fight it. My hands curled into fists. Vice Principal Holt hadn't just silenced Eli. She'd tried to break him. I did the stupidest, bravest thing of my life. I went back to the school. At 9:47 p.m. My dad used to work IT before switching careers. When I was 12, he showed me how to bypass basic access locks in case of emergencies. This was one. The side door near the auditorium still had a faulty magnetic lock. I slipped inside and headed straight for the security office. The cameras were ancient, local storage, and one folder was labeled admin, do not delete. Inside, weeks of footage, including today. I watched it all. Eli sitting in Holt's office, hands folded, compliant. Holt leaning forward, voice sharp even without audio. Eli shaking his head. Holt sliding a document across the desk. Then, this part mattered, Eli stood up. Not aggressively. Panicked. Holt blocked the door. Put her hand on his chest. He pushed it away. That was it. That single moment. She pressed a button under her desk. Security arrived. And suddenly, Eli was violent. I copied everything. Every angle. Every timestamp. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You shouldn't be here. I froze. Another message came through. Leave. Now. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. I barely made it out. The next morning, I didn't go to school. I went to the district office. With a flash drive. And a name I remembered from Eli's story. Dr. Helen Roscoe. The administrator who'd resigned quietly after Northridge's lawsuit. She was now, unbelievably, on the district ethics committee. When she saw the footage, she went pale. Oh, she whispered. She's doing it again. By noon, the district superintendent was involved. By 3 p.m., Holt's office was sealed. By 5:12 p.m., the police were called. But the real twist? The attack on Eli hadn't happened yet. It was still coming, and the people behind it realized, too late, that Eli Park wasn't alone anymore. The suspension didn't stop them. It just removed Eli from public view, which made him easier to reach. The district placed Vice Principal Holt on temporary administrative leave, pending investigation. A sanitized phrase that meant nothing yet. No charges. No apology. No public acknowledgement that she tried to manufacture a violent incident. Eli stayed home. So did I. We were told, politely, officially, to let the adults handle it. That's when the threats started again. Not school rumors this time. Direct messages. Unknown, you cost people their jobs. Unknown, you think cameras make you untouchable? Unknown, Eli should have kept his mouth shut. I forwarded everything to the district. They told us to block the numbers. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. The system wasn't built to stop escalation. It was built to manage liability. Eli tried to act normal. He said staying home felt safer, but his hands shook when he said it. He jumped at door slams. Slept on the couch because his bedroom window faced the street. On Thursday night, he called me. They're outside. My blood went cold. Who? I don't know. A car's been parked across the street for 20 minutes. Engine running. I told him to call the police. He said he didn't want to overreact. That was the lie victims always told themselves. The attack happened the next afternoon. At 3:18 p.m. Eli had gone back to Westbridge to pick up coursework. Administration insisted he come in after hours to avoid disruption. I met him in the parking lot. We never made it to the doors. A van screeched in sideways. 3 figures jumped out. Masks. Gloves. They didn't say a word. The first punch dropped Eli. The second cracked his ribs. I remember screaming. I remember trying to pull one of them off him and getting slammed into the asphalt. I remember one voice, muffled but furious. You ruined everything. Then they were gone. Eli lay bleeding on the pavement. Not moving. Not breathing right. I thought he was dead. The police came fast this time. So did ambulances. So did news vans. Because this wasn't just bullying anymore. It was attempted murder. Eli survived. Barely. Broken ribs. Collapsed lung. Severe concussion. The doctor said if we'd been 5 minutes later. He didn't finish the sentence. This time, the evidence was impossible to ignore. Traffic cameras caught the van. Cell tower data placed 3 students nearby. And the biggest mistake. One of them texted someone afterward. It's done. The recipient. A former booster parent. Whose spouse? Vice Principal Holt. That's when everything collapsed. Not just her career. The entire cover-up. Emails. Deleted reports. Informal guidance, memos. A pattern spanning 3 schools and 7 years. Students labeled unstable. Incidents reframed. Abusers protected. All to protect donors. All to protect reputations. The arrests came Friday morning. 3 former Westbridge students, 1 booster parent, and finally, Mary Ann Holt, charged with conspiracy, obstruction, and child endangerment. As she was led out of the district office, cameras flashing, she saw me. And for the first time, she looked afraid. Eli woke up in the ICU that night. I sat next to his bed. He whispered, "Did we lose?" I shook my head. No, they did. The courtroom was quieter than the ICU had been. No machines, no alarms, just the slow, heavy sound of consequences arriving late. The district tried to settle first. They offered silence, money, non-disclosure agreements thick enough to choke on. Eli said no. So did his mother. So did I. Because this wasn't just about what happened to him. It was about how many times it had already happened before. The prosecution didn't open with emotion. They opened with patterns. Emails showing Holt advising staff to document instability whenever certain students complained. Internal memos recommending voluntary transfers after disciplinary scandals. Testimony from former students, now adults, who had been quietly pushed out after reporting harassment. Then they showed the video. The camera Holt forgot about. The room went dead silent. Holt's defense collapsed in under 10 minutes. Her lawyer argued misinterpretation, then intent, then procedural discretion, until the prosecutor played the audio of her voicemail to her husband, left the night before the attack. Handle it. I can't clean up another mess. That was it. The jury didn't even need the rest. The 3 attackers, convicted of attempted murder and conspiracy, sentenced to 12 to 18 years each. Holt's spouse, facilitation of violent felony 10 years. Mary Ann Holt, conspiracy, obstruction, child endangerment, witness intimidation 22 years. No quiet resignation. No pension. No erasure. Westbridge shut down for a full semester. Administrators were replaced. Policies rewritten. Mandatory reporting laws expanded statewide. The media called it the Westbridge scandal. Students called it something else. Justice. Eli. Recovery took time. Physical scars faded faster than the others. But he stayed. Refused to transfer again. Said, "I'm done running from places that failed me." People started sitting with him. Not out of pity. Out of respect. Me. I lost friends. I gained a purpose. I studied law. Specialized in institutional abuse and youth protection. Because once you see how systems fail on purpose, you don't unsee it. Years later, Eli became a trauma counselor. I became a prosecutor. We worked different sides of the same war. We met for coffee once a month. Every time, without fail, he'd say, "You know, it all started with a lunch table." 5 years after the verdict, I received a letter. No return address. Inside was a photo. A grainy still from that cafeteria camera. Me, Eli, that first day. And a handwritten note. "We were watching. Thank you for proving one person was enough." That's the part people don't like to hear. That change doesn't start loud. It starts with someone choosing discomfort over indifference. Choosing to sit. Choosing to stay. Choosing not to look away. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness doesn't just save a life. It exposes a system. And forces it to finally blink first. Thanks for watching till the end. If this story moved you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share, because you never know who needs to hear that one person can still make a difference.